Coming to you from a portable microphone, this is Don't Get Me Started. This is a conversation about advertising. And here is your host, freelance creative director and creative circus department head, Dan Balser.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. And so here's the situation with today's episode. We are in the library, and you know that we're talking to Bobby. Bobby was on a show, holy crap, 8 some odd years ago, way back in probably year 1. The show is called Aw Shoot, because here's the thing, for a short time, I thought it would be cool to blindly name the shows what the show was about. But then I quickly realized, number one, no one knows who's on it. And number two, it's a lot harder to come up with those. That was hard to do. It's hard to come up with titles for those shows. So we're going back old school, way back, 2008. This guy, here's the thing. All right, before we start, make sure you like the Facebook page. I will have some of Bobby's work on there. It's facebook.com/DGMS podcast. You should know that. For those of you who are already following the show, thank you for doing that. Also, follow Bobby Do Right on Instagram. That's a good way to see Bobby's work. And I wasn't tasked with introducing Bobby today at the forum, but he just came out of a forum. He's here from Southern California. And the thing that I said, I will stand by it. And which is that in all of my years of teaching, I can't remember ever having known a photographer who was as well integrated and collaborative with the advertising students, who to me sort of felt like he belonged with the ad kids, and it was in a way that was self-serving but also selfless. I think that it made everybody better. I think that it's one of the reasons why Bobby has become and remains successful is his collaborative essence and spirit, but also the connections that he's made. And this has come up sometimes on the podcast about the importance of networking, which to me is such a snap and wink douchebaggy word. You can network, yeah, hey, let me pass out my business cards. But being a good person and just being willing and ready to do cool stuff, I think makes you collaborative. So welcome back to school, Bobby.
Thanks for having me. Dude, I'm a grown man now.
You're exactly,
am I talking loud enough?
You're exactly the same size. Do you think you shrunk? You said you
No. Well, no.
You said you had shrunk.
Well, my belly's getting bigger.
So you appear smaller?
Yeah.
Dude, don't even look at my belly. I'm not even going to, don't get me started on my belly.
I get it.
So I don't have any notes at all.
Okay.
Nope, no notes. But I do have some questions.
We'll just freeball it, I guess.
Yeah, this is going to be, listeners, I want you to know that I do my homework on these things. I prepare. I do assemble some sort of plan, even though it doesn't sound like it. For this one, I have literally a completely blank page.
There's a blank piece of paper in front of them right now.
And a pen. But there's a question that came up in the forum, and I want to talk to you about collaboration, and I want to talk to you about the photography craft a little bit. All right, so let's just jump right into it, because this is something that I'm really interested as a professional advertising person and as an advertising instructor. I want to know what creates an ideal collaboration. If you're the photographer showing up, what are your expectations, and what makes a good collaboration when you're working with a client that's an art director, copywriter, creative director?
First, I would say first and foremost, it would be a good idea.
Okay.
If an idea is not a good idea, it's going to fall short no matter what the photographer does, I think, or whatever the team does. But that's advertising. Ideas should be good if they're being produced and they're spending money on them. So most ideas are good, but when someone comes to me with an idea, it's usually good, and I don't really dictate too much of that either way. So I hope to go into every situation making their idea better than they imagined it. But definitely having a team that's over-prepared and has experience with collaborating with other photographers. And
what makes that collaboration go well? How does that experience manifest itself in a good way? How does that show up in a good way? Do you understand what I'm asking you?
In the final result?
No, I'm talking about when you're
on set.
You're on set, yeah. What's your expectation of what an art
smiles? People are smiling and having fun, not just serious and maybe uptight. I think that's how you can tell if something's going well or not, is the mood and how people are reacting. I always try to have fun on set and keep people smiling and laughing and keep it, easy going, really. Especially with the people that if I'm shooting a subject, definitely keeping it easy going with them is a key aspect to it. So I think the collaborative process should be fun. should be well planned out. And I mentioned it in the forum itself is the communication. I think communicating the idea as thorough as possible is key. Somebody else asked or made the comment about there's, when an art director hires you, an art buyer calls you, there's a reason they want you. They want to work with you for your style, and they want your take on their idea. They want you to give it that Bobby look or whoever it might be, that look.
Yeah, one of the things that I thought was a learning curve for me as a professional was being on set and tapping into that feeling, that mental space of having come up with the idea. Like being in the concept on set sometimes is distracting. I think a lot of times you'll get an art director and a copywriter who may not be used to being on production, and there's craft service, and there's action going on. There's possibly somebody taking their clothes off and putting on makeup, and there's a lot of tertiary stuff happening around them.
Well, they have their own other work that's going on too. They might be checking emails. They might be responding to something else.
And it's true, they have devices now which
distracted. Yeah, that you didn't have before.
Didn't have years ago when I was on my first set. So have you had the situation where it's like, hey, hello, art director, are you going to direct this? I mean,
100%. A lot of it really is like, are you looking at what we're getting? And that's a huge luxury, I think, to art directors today, is that if you're working with a good team and a photographer that knows what they're doing, they're most likely going to have a digital tech. You're going to have a computer. You're going to have probably a separate monitor. So the art director should be clearly looking at that monitor, looking at what's going on, giving any kind of feedback. Right. But yeah, sometimes they do get distracted, and you're like, well, where did so-and-so go?
Right.
You need them there.
Right. And I think that's where an art director's craft is happening right in front of their eyes. And it's a huge opportunity to do something great. And it reminds me of, this is completely random analogy, but it reminds me of when in 1996, Lisa and I came down to Atlanta to go to the Olympics. And, so we're there watching these events, and we watched platform diving, which is, by the way, not something to see live. This is made for television. We saw track cycling, we saw track and field, and we saw gymnastics. And you're sitting here and you're watching this thing, and all of a sudden, boom, it goes and it's done. It's like, oh my God, 4 years, and everything they planned for just happened in 37 seconds, and that was it. That was their time. And that's why I know that I could never be a photographer, because this is one of the reasons. I know that I get so anxious when I'm setting up something that it's almost like when I get hot coffee or soup served to me, I eat it too fast because I don't want my soup to be. I hate cold soup. I hate cold coffee. So on the set, I get anxious because it's all happening, and then it's just, I'm overwhelmed as a director. I could never be a director. But I think that the opposite happens sometimes when they don't realize that this is their it's
their baby
Olympics. This is their moment to make something happen, and it's as important, if not more important, than the type and the layout. So I don't know. I wanted to get to that from the photographer's perspective, because I feel like advertising people kind of have they hold the cards, they hold the money, they hold the decision, but they don't necessarily hold the end result. And I think that being able to, when you're hiring a photographer, you're hiring a designer, that's a partnership in making this stuff. And I jokingly said in the presentation that where's the word director in art director? Art director is supposed to be directing the photographer.
Yep.
So,
and as a photographer, I want them to be there, because that's how I know that I'm doing my job, is when they're if they're directing the subject, and I can kind of sit back, and if there's something that they don't see, and I could see something different happening for a second, I can also direct that, or pull the art director aside, or vice versa. They can pull me aside, and we can discuss it away from the set, come back, and move forward.
That's really cool. How often has it happened that somebody has changed something, maybe not 90 degrees, but 60 degrees in one direction that you didn't see it coming? And how do you process those changes in real time? Do you get anxious about it, or are you ready and excited? And has it ever happened to where a change like that has actually really made something surprisingly better?
I wouldn't say there's been a big change necessarily, but maybe add-ons.
Okay, that's cool.
And in my career right now, I try to be as obliging as possible. Is that the correct word? Mm-hmm. I try to be overly accommodating. Yeah. Which hopefully, as I get more experience and go further down my career, I can kind of lay out certain expectations before the shoot, and they'll know, like, nope. Or when we're on set, they negotiate it with my producer, and I'm getting paid extra if there's a big change, an add-on, stuff like that. But I would say I see a lot of add-ons now, where they don't realize really the effort that go into it. I've stressed all day. I've got the shots that they want, and they go, well, we want to get a couple like this. But they don't realize I got to change my lighting around. So now I've got to have my guys do this and do that, and I've got to kind of wrap my head around it.
Second project almost.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen very often, but it does. And right now, I do try to be a little bit more accommodating than I probably should be. But that's everybody's choice to do so.
You earn the right at some point to say, wait a second.
No.
That's a different project.
I stomp off set.
Talk about like an idea. I can't imagine that happening.
No.
What percent?
I'd walk lightly.
So we're looking across the room, and J.R. Ward's sitting across the table. I mean, we may not hear from him, but you can.
Hi, this is J.R.
You can search for him on the interwebs as well. He's a silent spectator on the conversation. What percentage of the work do you think now is and how does the flow work? Let's ask that question. How is the workflow or the project different when you're shooting maybe for a publication or for someone's an individual who may want some shots they can use for PR versus an ad agency or a commercial shoot? How does the process differ? I'm just curious how it feels on the set. Does it feel different? Is it different?
Yeah, I think depending on what you're shooting, how you're shooting it, it's definitely either more relaxed or harder up, and you're really nervous. You're wearing that special outfit because you're working with a new advertising agency, a new client, and you want to kill it. So there's different emotions that go into that. For instance, like PR photos, it's sort of a more intimate type environment most of the time, I think, unless you're hired by a bigger company. But when you do something on a personal level...
Is that because your client is your subject, or is that because you're more artistic? Or
because the subject's the client, essentially, and you don't have some other person trying to dictate things or looking over your shoulder. So with an advertising agency, like they are spending a lot of money. They got to make sure they get their money's worth. So they have every right to kind of be in your face, make things maybe a little bit more stressful than they need to be. But that just, I think, goes away with experience and time. And it's, I don't think it'll ever really go. I don't think it's going to go away for me anytime like real soon. It's like even when I was up on stage there, it's like trying to keep things going for a minute was kind of a little difficult. But then once I was able to just talk about my photographs and I was a little bit more comfortable, same thing on a set. A few minutes go by, I might get a little hot, like that hot flash that you get for a second, and then you get past it, and you're like,
past, that's what I'm talking about. Shooting something serious to me is all that hot stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, it's happening.
What I've learned is that there's a way to lead into a photo shoot, depending on who you're shooting. If you're shooting a celebrity, I try to be very accommodating, for one. Again, I'll use that word. But I try to be just like overly friendly. This is all about you. I'm so excited to be here. And I make them comfortable, because it is about them. It's not about me. Yeah. In my mind, it's about me.
No, right.
Because I'm excited, but it's them.
When it is about you, and when you are doing something, this is a philosophical question. Do you have an emotional safety net? Like, is there some sort of way that you can like find a sense of calm when things are going chaotic? Because I'm thinking about the analogy of being this podcast. Like for me, it's like I recorded some really big names, and like this is happening, and you get this weird feeling where you're kind of separate from your body for a second, and then like
he's feeling that right now. By the way,
I'm feeling a little bit right now. I'm a little nervous right now. But my emotional safety net is like I'm the one editing this part. Like I can control the process somehow. Do you? Because I do believe sort of this gets a little about craft and nerve. That like the nervousness comes from you feeling like you're not controlling it. You're feeling like something's going to change or something's going to get screwed up or something like that. And once you get into the rhythm, it's because you got the confidence, right?
Mm-hmm. So the confidence for sure. And there's like that moment where you and your subject or the situation kind of click. And that doesn't always happen right away. And it might take a little extra time in other situations. For me, if something's not feeling right, I might just get up and act like I'm working on something else. Like let me look at this really quick. And I'm looking at the monitor with the digital tech. And I'm really just collecting myself for a second.
That's cool.
And maybe getting out of that situation that was, one, frustrating me, or two, just not getting, I wasn't, maybe there's something wrong with me at that moment. Like I'm not directing, I'm not remembering exactly what I wanted to get. Because especially with advertising jobs, you do have kind of a little while to think about it and prep.
Yeah.
Even for like speaking today. Oh, everything was going to go super smooth. Oh, I'm going to do this and it's going to feel so good. didn't feel good for a minute, you know,
Right,
like it
right.
was kind of scary.
Right.
So with advertising jobs, when you go to shoot, you've been thinking about it over and over again. You're like, remember to do this, remember to direct it this way, remember to think about this. This is how you're going to do this. And sometimes you lose track of that once you're on set. So for me to walk away for a second, pretend I just want to check the lighting on this. I want to make sure this is sharp. You know, just get away for a minute. I don't look stupid. I'm not freaking out. Just walk away, come back.
That's really cool.
Get the shot.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And it's also like getting out of the details for a second and seeing the bigger picture, seeing the vision for a second. So I want the listeners to listen to I want you in on this for a second, what's happening in this conversation. So I just got back. The order's all screwed up on the podcast. So I don't know what order you're hearing this, but I just got back from San Francisco. I know that a while back I published the one with Jeff Goodby. I recorded a bunch of them out there, and I do these things a lot. And more often than not on this conversation, there's a microphone on the table between the two of us, and I'm leaning in a little bit because I want you guys to hear my voice perfectly. And most of the time I've got a guest who's sitting back and is they're kind of super casually, I don't know if I don't want to say that there's an ego in the room necessarily, because I don't feel like that's what it is with those people, but there's a casual, and you can hear the distance. Like if I sit back, you can hear the difference. But Bobby is like, he's up like he's like the perfect posture, like he's sitting up at the microphone. Like this is going down now. This is happening, and there's an infectious energy and enthusiasm just to record this conversation that I think is an incredible trait of yours, right? I think that the fact that you are making something as we're making something separates you a little bit, I think, from a lot of creatives that I've met where it's not even compartmentalized. It's like we're having a conversation, but that's not really who I am, versus we're having a conversation and that's my essence in a way. I think that's a really interesting difference. The listeners don't get the benefit of seeing these conversations, but I think that's a critical thing to note. That kind of segues into the question, what trait of yours do you think has been, what is it about you do you think that's helped you be successful, and do you feel like you're successful?
I feel like I'm starting to gain more and more success. I was just talking to Greg. It's an up and down roller coaster, especially living in California. It's a struggle. It really is.
Was that just because is that just because it's so competitive and there's so many talented people?
I don't even feel like it's very competitive. I think for a minute, and I'll kind of segue back into the answer about how, like,
what is it about you?
Yeah, because a lot of people, because people do tell me, they go, look, it's not necessarily going to be about your work. It's about who you know and how you treat people. And most people will tell me,
whether you get jobs.
I think once they meet you, like the more times that I can walk into a room and actually handshake with somebody, that's probably what's going to sell them, is just meeting me. So more times than none, it's somebody else telling me, like, yeah, I think people just need to meet you and they'll want to work with you. And then I take that onto the set with me as well, knowing, like I was talking about before, keeping the mood good, being easy to work with, being willing to make changes on the fly, add some imagery that wasn't negotiated prior to the shoot, stuff like that. Success-wise, I've definitely reached many goals that I've set out to achieve.
It's great.
I have more. I'm excited about some of the advertising jobs that I've gotten. I'm excited about the ones that keep coming in. And I definitely, success for me looks like just a consistent career that's long. I don't want overnight success that lasts over that night. I want it to be a long career and only get better at my craft. And I think I'm just now kind of getting there a little bit, feeling the confidence, knowing that I just got to do more of the legwork and get out there to meet people and say, hi, I'm Bobby.
I love that. I love that answer too. But when you said it in the forum, it reminded me, I swear that this is weird how stuff happens. The 237 thing is weird how stuff happens. 237 is this weird number that's connected with.
Yeah, first it was with Anna, my fiance.
Yeah.
Who's really awesome. Hi, Anna.
Thought you were married already, but okay.
Yeah, we've been engaged for 7 years.
She's great.
She really loves me, I think. But yeah, there's this, for her, it was this number 237 kept coming into her life. And then all of a sudden, she told me about it. And all of a sudden, we're experiencing this number 237 all the time. And so a lot of the times we'll actually text each other at 237 and just write 237.
That's crazy. So if you ever have a child, they'll be born on February 37th. So wait, so
27. All right, no.
Is it? No, okay. Yeah. No, but it's weird how these things synchronize because
the forum ended today at 2:37.
Right, isn't that crazy? So, and on my way in today, I was listening to a podcast, an interview with Jossie Zardes. Jossie Zardes is a soccer player for LA Galaxy and the U.S. national team, and the question to him was, your goal was to make it to, you said on a podcast 2 years ago that your goal was to be on the U.S. men's national team. You're on the national team. You're a growing star. What is your next goal? And his answer was consistency. He says, I want to be consistent. I want to be a prolific production. He wants to be like Landon Donovan, where he can be relied upon to be consistent. And I think that's a really cool, mature sort of, it's such a bizarre thing, I think, for a junior to think, my goal is consistency. I want to get out of here and go be consistent. But like you look at, that's what makes you viable. So is there a personal trait besides the ones that you talked about, being personable, flexible? Is there something about you that think that has served you well so far?
Well, hopefully it's any kind of talent that I have photography wise.
Right, talent. Okay. No one's ever said talent. I think that's a really great answer. No one's ever on that. I've asked that question a lot. I don't think anyone's ever said talent. I think that's an underrated thing.
Yeah, I mean that's what your success should be rated on, right?
Dude, you'd be surprised because I think that my own. This is just me. This is editorial. This does not represent the management. I believe that there's a false perception that if you do certain things right, you can be successful. I think you can, but I don't think you really are going to have a good life if you're trying to do something that you don't have a natural talent doing. Mm-hmm. I think you have to have talent. I think and you definitely have that. So do you stay in touch with old classmates?
Yes.
That's been the lifeblood in a lot of ways, hasn't it?
Yes. Oh, definitely. Work is still coming in through friends and old associates and stuff like that. And that's probably the hardest thing for me to do. It's not because I love friends. I love people. I love staying in touch with people, but it is daunting at times too. Mm-hmm. Like to continue to nurture those relationships. And I do the best that I can and always try to get together with these people when I'm in town. And I do live a little bit outside of LA. So I don't live right in the Mecca where a lot of my friends live in LA. And, it does become difficult, but I think that they think about me. And even if I just send like a quick little note, sometimes I've had to send like little quick notes like, hey, I'm a little slow right now. Like anything could help. And, be even a little bit more open than I'd like to be about that. But honesty is a good policy, I think. And
that's a fine line.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to say that.
You don't want to sound desperate.
What? I don't mind sounding desperate to friends, but I do mind sounding unemployed or unemployable or irrelevant to friends. Like you're asking them because you want some more work, but the double-edged sword is that like, why isn't he working? I mean, like, does he suck now? Is he?
Did he completely blow it?
That's the fear, I think, of like asking friends. But I think you have to do it. And
I am totally employable.
And your friends love, of course you are, but your friends love you. They don't think that. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. So what do you think is the most? I'm making up questions as we're sitting here because I don't have anything written down.
He doesn't.
Blank page, completely blank page. If you were,
he's barely wearing pants.
Barely nothing. I have nothing on down there, man. I have nothing on down there. If you were going to speak to the grad class, my grad class, which is art directors and copywriters, what would you tell them about how to behave on set or with photographers or with people that they're hiring to bring in? Like what's the most important thing for them to know? And this goes back to the very first question I had with you. What's the most important thing for them to know when they're showing up to after they've hired you? You've already liked the idea and all that. What's the best? How should they? What do you expect? I think you didn't directly answer it.
They need to take their job serious. Take it very serious. Don't take themselves too serious. But the job itself, the work that they're producing, should be taken very serious.
And that's interesting too, because like your ass is on. I mean, this is your livelihood too, and your portfolio.
If they fall short, I'll probably fall short.
No, because
I don't want to have to be lifting anybody else.
I've had projects that I didn't like, but I have to show up and give a shit about it. I mean, the client's spending money.
Right.
The photographer's working on it, or the director.
I think, for the most part, the people that I've liked working with the most, and the reason I love advertising so much, is that there's a lot of humble egos out there. Because everybody's got a little bit of an ego.
You have Ross Cavan.
Yeah, he's got the biggest ego I've ever seen.
Chris Adams.
Holy cow.
Right, that's my point.
I've never seen anybody being fed peanuts on set when they're not even the talent.
I've never known anybody that talented with that small of an ego. I'm being honest.
Yeah, for sure.
I just want to make sure people know you're kidding.
That's what I love about advertising, because I think in the fashion industry and other celebrity industries, you can deal with a lot of hot-headed people who want everything done the way they want it done, and they're not willing to be open-minded or see a different point of view. So working in advertising, I feel like the people that work in advertising come from a different realm and a different life that's more suitable to somebody who's like me, like your everyday person, and the egos are left at the door, and you're coming in for a greater purpose, which is creating and collaborating, and something super sexy about that.
That's cool. 2 more questions. What's your dream job? What's your dream project?
Son of a gun. Somebody just asked me this.
Did they?
In the auditorium too. I don't know if I have dream jobs.
Okay.
Like, I think I just have goals that I want to reach. I want to shoot a cover for a relative, like a mainstream magazine, GQ, Esquire. Like, those are goals that I have.
That's great.
Dream job. So that would be a dream job.
That's great.
You know, becoming like a staff photographer for even if it's entertainment. Even I shouldn't even say it that way. Anything entertainment based.
That's great.
I think is kind of the direction that I want to go in. If I could get steady doing that and get a few advertising jobs throughout the year that are exciting and fun,
very cool.
I can pay my bills and have fun.
All right. So last time you were on the podcast was like the day before graduation, something like that. It was right before you left school. So if you had a time machine, you could go back and whisper something in young Bobby's ear day before graduation from school. What have you learned that you wish you'd known? What would you whisper in your ear? What would you tell yourself?
I don't know. I do know, kind of, but it's kind of like a long-winded answer, I feel like. I think I would have given myself some advice, basically based on my portfolio then and what it is now. And I wish I would have collaborated with more creatives outside of just art direction and copywriting. I wish I would have pulled in more stylists, pulled in higher end talent as far as models and subjects go.
You did comment about a piece that you said you would have done some things differently. Yeah, different.
And I think that would be the advice. Like, and I gave that to a lot of the students that I met with today when I looked at their portfolios. I could see, like, okay, you're onto something, but you're not nailing it because your subject is not right.
Did you not know better at the time because you were young, or did you just take what was available because you thought you couldn't ask for better talent? I mean,
I think I tried to do too many things on my own.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I wasn't reaching out, and I think also maybe a little insecure. Mm-hmm. Like when you're the only person that's there and like handling things, and then there's nobody else. Like you can't really fail anybody else. You're just failing yourself. So like not.
You don't want.
Maybe I wasn't quite there.
You don't
yet.
want to put people on the hook. You didn't want to be responsible for other people's.
Kind of.
Sort of.
More so, yeah. It was like I could kind of just work in the dark almost, or work by myself. And if it didn't turn out great, it all fell on me, and nobody else was involved, and nobody else could like say anything. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it was like an insecurity.
You're over that now, right?
Oh yeah. I'm working with very talented hair and makeup now out of LA, exclusive artists. There's this guy Ken Harvey. He's been in the industry for a very long time, and he's been kind of mentoring me and just kind of helping me along, and helped me make a lot of contacts. So it's been nice.
Great. It's so great.
You
to
need
see.
that in this industry.
So great to see you, man. You look awesome.
Yeah, good to see you.
I think I'm so excited to see your work, and it's really doesn't surprise me that it's awesome, but it's definitely developed a lot.
Thank you.
Awesome. So how can people find your stuff besides Instagram?
Hopefully on the cover of GQ soon. BobbyDWright.com. I'm on Instagram at BobbyDWright.
Perfect.
And don't Google my name because some other weird shit might pop up. So.
Bobby, thank you so much. You can always reach me at danspodcast@mac.com. It's been the email address forever. Don't forget to like the Facebook page and stick around. There'll be more of these conversations coming in perpetuity. And JR, thanks for hanging out.
Thank you, JR.
No one heard JR, but
I haven't seen JR in like 3 or 4 years.
He's in the room. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. Bobby, thank you so much.
Feel the power.
See you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Thanks, Dan.
I aim for 30 minutes. That's 29 minutes and 24 seconds.
What if it was 2:37? Ooh. That wouldn't even be my bad.